Greg, Maya, and Betty are not experts, nor do they claim to be. They're just a bunch of nerds who enjoy talking about movies, shows, and current events. So sit back, grab a coffee, relax, and enjoy a brand new episode of All Queued Up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of All Queued Up, the review podcast tied to streaming services like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, etc., etc. I'm your host, Greg Dietz, and with me always is Maya Don Fisher and Betty Badger. How are you two been?
Well, I've had an interesting day running all over the Tri-Cities area, but I'm home and I'm glad to be here. And yeah, I'm doing better than Maya. How are you, Maya?
I mean, I'm down on my back a little bit and it was a little sore, but other than that, I'm good. I just, lower back pain really sucks.
It does. It really does.
Other than that, I've just been reading and painting a lot in the past week. Getting ready for the weekend. How are you, Greg?
I'm good. I been catching up on shows, and I've been playing a new game, a Knockout City. It's basically like dodgeball on steroids. Betty, because you have Game Pass, you can actually play it for free.
Cool.
For everybody else, I believe that there's a 10-day free trial. I could be wrong about that. Don't take my word for it, but it is really intense. It's really fast paced, and what's interesting is I say dodgeball, so it's don't get hit. But there's like a lot of nuance to it, because you have two different double jump buttons that do different types of double jumps. And there's a reason behind that. Like you can do trick shots and shit, but I don't know. It's fascinating. I will say the funniest part about it is they really nailed down the sound of a dodgeball hitting you in the fucking face with the boom. I tried to play Skyrim again this week. I hadn't played for a little over a week, maybe 2 weeks from where we've been working on the D&D stuff. I made it 5 minutes before I got nauseous and I had to quit. It's really sad. I have 2 games that I want to play. I know one of them is Vikings. I think it's the Assassin's Creed one, Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And then there's another one as well that's got Vikings in it that I wanted to play. But I did play some golf yesterday. I've been a hot minute, and after making a quadruple bogey on my first round, my first course, I failed miserably through the course, and then the next time I played, I won with first place. So I was pretty proud of myself.
Speaking of golf, I'm very excited about Mario Golf coming out soon on the Switch.
Is that happening?
Cool. Oh yeah. It's I don't remember the title of it. Like, there's a subtitle to it because they have to have a subtitle since it's like the fucking 4th Mario Golf game. But they have a really cool mode where instead of just like hitting the ball and then letting every other player hit it and you take turns, everyone starts at the same time, and as soon as you hit the ball, you have to sprint to your ball. So it almost becomes a race to get it in the hole. And
relay golf.
And other players can fuck with you with like power-ups and stuff. It's great.
Of course, that's how Mario would do it.
Yeah, it's awesome, but I'm excited. Well, everybody, we're going to be we didn't say this last week because we didn't know, but Betty brought it up on Sunday about us watching Army of the Dead, almost at Army of Darkness, which is a shame, and I apologize to everybody immediately. Can't compare this movie with Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead. Netflix basically gave Zack Snyder full reign on to make his own zombie movie.
Those assholes.
And
we know how Maya feels.
Yeah, Jesus. So we're going to get into that. And then after we're done talking about Army of the Dead, we're just going to kind of discuss Zack's body of work. I've seen just about every single movie that he's made outside of the Snyder Cut because I don't feel like watching that. Though I probably should just for sake of having seen it. But yeah, I don't know what to say. Let's dive into Army of the Dead. The plot is fascinating. Dumb. So here's the thing. I love zombies. I've watched a ton of zombie movies, so has Betty. The Of the Dead line is tied to George Romero. This is not George Romero in the fucking slightest. And I don't like that there's that weird distinction. I think that's something that I immediately detached from this movie is like, if it was just Zack Snyder's movie and it was like it was called something else, I might be a little bit more inclined, but the fact that it's Of the Dead bothers the shit out of me. And it's because I personally fucking love, Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Like, I love those fucking movies. And it kind of feels like he just took it. He just took it and he was like, it's mine now. Because I didn't see George Romero's name on this movie at fucking all. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just being weird about it.
Well, I don't think it's something that is copyrighted to the point that you can say this is mine.
No,
did we want to give us a synopsis of this?
Yeah, so sorry, I was going to do that. So it starts off with a like, they call him the Alpha Zombie, like behind the scenes. And he turns a bunch of soldiers into zombies and then invades Las Vegas over the course of God knows how many days, months, years. It doesn't really specify. There's a war within Vegas, and they close off Vegas, leaving all the undead inside Vegas. And then it jumps ahead in time to which a guy who owned a casino in Vegas, something Bly,
Tanaka.
Tanaka, okay, I had it right. He then recruits Batista, and he wants him to recruit other people to basically go on a heist within a zombie-infested Las Vegas to get into a vault to get something out of the vault for him.
At least that's the story.
That's the basics of it. I watched the first 40 minutes of this and went, this is a really cool concept. I like this idea. A zombie infested fucking Las Vegas and they have to do it's a fucking zombie heist is what it is. Cool. Neat concept. Let's do it. And then they get into Vegas and the movie takes this weird turn that I did not like.
Was it the Alphas?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Can we back up a minute? In the very first part of the movie when they're transporting this, thing in a locker with military escort. And the newlyweds are driving down the road and he's getting his little newlywed blowy. And that one car veers off. It hits the transport vehicle. And that transport vehicle just goes all to hell. And I'm sorry, y'all saw that car. I saw that car. That would have never happened like that. That would have never happened like that.
First of all, cars don't explode. Never. They don't explode unless there is some type of accelerant and explosion causing device attached to a car. It's just going to burn and smolder once the fuel catches fire. But I'm sorry, this whole shit movie was based on a part of a dude that couldn't fucking keep his car straight because he was getting a blowy. Fuck this movie. That's exactly
okay. Well, hold on, Maya. I have to stop you there because to me that complaint is on par with like, man, I can't really get into Guardians of the Galaxy because of a talking raccoon. Like,
okay, well, again, knowing that this is tongue in cheek and everything.
Or wiener in cheek.
We did have to, because of the way we are in my house, we did have to make comment upon that because that Cadillac would have barely done anything to that transport truck, and that transport truck would have barreled right through it, and they wouldn't have stopped.
It was heavily armored. It would have ripped that fucking Cadillac to shreds and kept going. It would not have been stopped dead and blew up.
I wholeheartedly agree with you guys. I'm not saying that you're wrong. All I'm getting at is I personally do not feel like critiquing the movie in that regard is inherently
I just had to
fair.
bring it up because it was funny as hell to me.
Well, the movie starts off, the first shot you technically see from the military perspective is that when they're taking off, there's two lights in the distance like UFOs, and then they take off. Now, either that's one of two things. because throughout this film, there's some weird shit that I kept seeing, but I'll get to that in a second. One of two things. This zombie virus was started by aliens, or that's just to indicate that they left Area 51. One of the two. The other weird thing throughout the film is that when they're fighting a lot of the zombies inside the casino, it doesn't happen so much outside the casino, but it's definitely inside the casino. And there's another shot like when, oh my God, spoiler alert if you haven't fucking seen the movie. When he pulls the dead fetus that glows blue and then it dies. There's also a zombie in the distance that I saw with glowing blue eyes. And 3 separate times when they shoot a zombie in the face, it's a skeleton. It's like a Terminator behind it.
That's weird. I didn't notice that.
3 separate.
So let's move on to the next part. You know, he's Dave Bautista.
Dave,
you know,
his
character, along with a few others that end up in his Ocean's 11 zombie team. They all got out of Las Vegas. So, you know, we get to see this happening. And so he's been recruited and he's got to go and recruit his team. Now, one thing I did find out, I don't know if you guys know this, is that Tig Notaro's shots, they actually had another actress shoot those shots, and they had to impose her upon those shots. I think she was only actually on set with other people one time.
If it was her by herself, then it was her fully. But yeah, otherwise,
yeah, it was the actor comedian Chris D'Elia who had already filmed all of his parts, and he got Me Too'd. So they replaced him with her.
Okay,
and it cost them millions to superimpose her and digitally remove him and put her in.
But, you know, it turned out good. And, you know, he got his team together. And, you know, we're getting ready to go in. And that's when we get to meet the coyote. And we also know that his daughter is working for the volunteers for the people on the outskirts of Las Vegas that need to get out. And she gets drawn into this too. So this is so stupid. When they went to Tacanero, was that his name?
Tanaka.
And he was showing them, you know, the model that he'd made and everything. And then he said, easy peasy Japanesey. And one dude was like, I don't think you can say that anymore. And the other guy was like, yeah, well, you know, he's Japanese. I think it's okay. Do you know, it blew my mind because I'd never heard that. I've heard easy peasy lemon squeezy, and I've heard easy peasy, but I've never heard easy peasy Japanesey. And I'm like, what the heck is this? You know, but it was funny. I thought that was a funny moment.
No, it's absolutely, yeah. It's I've heard it when I was younger, but that line also of like, you can't say that anymore, felt very ham-fistedy. Like, hey, so you know how like we can't say things nowadays? Like Zack Snyder's like, oh, we can't say this kind of stuff anymore, so let's make a joke about it. It's like, dude, you don't have to fucking do that.
No.
That's what it felt like to me, but
So how did you feel about the alphas and the queen and the king, basically?
I really thought it was lame. Like, mainly I thought it was lame because in City of the Dead, I think is what it is, George Romero's like, I think, last zombie movie. I could be wrong about that. No, Diary of the Dead was his last one. It was the one where like there was a city full of people that were surviving, and there was like a mayor, like a I don't call him a mayor, but
had John Leguizamo in it.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in the theaters with a friend of mine.
Yeah, same here. There's a zombie in it that shows early signs of zombies like kind of having somewhat of an intelligence with the dude at the gas station. And I thought maybe that this was an evolution of that.
Yeah, and I want to also bring up, I don't know if I know I'm not the only one who knows this, but in the first episode of The Walking Dead, when he goes into Atlanta, there was one zombie who stood out among the rest that looked like he had some intelligence about him. he said something, and I thought they were going to go somewhere with that, and they never did. So I was kind of interested in the more intelligent and advanced, alphas. Um, yeah,
I think honestly that's what upsets me the most about the fact that there's intelligent zombies in the way that they are in this film, because it's never explained to an extent that makes sense.
no.
Every single, like, I'm 100%. I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but there was a video that I used to watch, or that I've shown to a bunch of people, which is like the Death and Return of Superman, and it's this guy who I'm not going to name because the dude's apparently a piece of shit, and I didn't know this when watching it for the first time, but he does make an excellent point at the end of it while Simon Pegg is in the shot, and it's him basically talking to his dad about how he's upset that all this stuff didn't make sense when it came to Superman's resurrection and death and all this kind of stuff. And his dad says, "How do you kill Dracula?" And he's like, "Stake to the heart, garlic, cross, holy water." And his dad says, "Wrong. You can kill Dracula any way you want because he doesn't fucking exist." Now, I say this only because the same rule goes for zombies. The same rule 100% goes with zombies. And I don't have a problem with the idea of intelligent zombies. What I have a problem with is how they were used in this film. The idea of one being pregnant. And clearly it wasn't like there was one primary alpha zombie that I don't even want to call him a zombie because he's the one who's intelligent. But apparently his bite has like a length on time of which it'll change you. I'm sure you guys
like
noticed
the
that.
alpha vampires from Anne Rice's.
And see, and if with vampires that makes a little bit more sense, like that to me makes more sense. But the vampire or the zombie bite doesn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't fit. It doesn't work. Plus, like he can determine whether they become shamblers or if they're intelligent. Like it just didn't. It didn't.
Well,
fit.
okay. So I will recommend again Z Nation. If you want to see it done with a similar theme, but in a very tongue-in-cheek, funny way, definitely Z Nation is something to look into because it's a zombie show, but it also knows how to poke fun at itself. So, yeah. I have to say, when they got to the casino and they started discovering there were other teams before them, I wasn't surprised. Who's the guy who was the bad guy in the team that was told to come with them?
That was the one actor that Maya was excited to see.
Yeah, what's his name?
Dillahunt.
Yes, I
Dillahunt.
love him.
Oh.
He's also in The Walking Dead as well.
Not anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they killed him about a month ago.
Oh, I loved him. I loved him on Raising Hope too. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Burt Chance is my spirit animal.
Yes. And so when I saw he was in this, I was excited.
I knew
he was going to be
too.
a bad guy. He played a great bad guy. You saw what they were there for. It wasn't the safe. It wasn't the money. That was just a ruse. That was for him to get in, get what he wanted, and get out. The ending, I knew, 40 minutes towards the end, I was like, this is not going to go in a good way.
To be honest, the only thing in this movie that I didn't predict was the fucking smart zombies having a baby. That was it. That was the only thing I didn't.
Watch Z Nation. That is in there, but it's in a very strange comedic way. And it is explained. Again,
that makes
should watch it.
I don't remember what it was that I watched. If it was but it was a zombie thing. It could have been from a game or whatever. But there was like a pregnant woman who was. God, what the fuck was it? Anyway, it was a pregnant woman who turned into a zombie, and then her baby also turned into a zombie inside of her.
That happened on The Walking Dead.
Did it? Okay. I don't think I saw it on The Walking Dead, but
that's what happened.
Yeah,
because
imagine if your baby dies in utero, it becomes a zombie. Oh my god!
I love that idea for it's terrifying, but I love that idea. Whereas this was just, it seems so bizarre. And like, I remember watching it, and I think I was like, I want to snack while I'm watching this movie. And I pause it. No, not I pause it, but I was like, I'll watch it after this scene. And it was the scene with the guy that who was a douchebag to women. And I was like, oh, he's gonna die. Like
That
the
was
second
Theo Rossi. That was the dude that played Shades and fucking
right. No, I love Theo Rossi, don't get me wrong. But the fact that he's introduced immediately as a douchebag, I was like, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. Like it's fucking obvious. But when he's in the Alpha Zombie's lair, like I was like, I'll finish this scene. And then when they were like, when he puts his head on the other zombie's stomach, and then fucking fist, I was like, I need to take a break. Just like this is so weird. And that was the other thing I think killed me, was that when it was official that the baby died and he wanted revenge, I'm like, why does this seem so fucking stupid?
because it's from Zack Snyder's mind. That's why.
Again,
He's all flash, no substance.
Yeah, and we knew going into this that this was very much going to be, boom booms, all the action scenes and stuff. I think Jeff liked it a little bit better than I did. Again, the ending, where nobody made it out, it just. I can't say I'm angry at it, but I was like, damn.
I saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah, same here. Honestly, I wholeheartedly agree. I think I saw it coming because,
but I think the last one on the plane was the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Well, I was surprised that he survived, period. And then I was like, well, he's obviously bitten. And of course he was.
Yeah, like I no, that was obvious. Like I knew he was bit. Like the way he started, because I sat there and I thought, like, how did he survive getting out of the vault? Because I have to imagine that it had an auto locking mechanism once it's closed. But I just kind of was like, whatever. It's because it was like the greatest vault in the history of mankind, and
and it was a manual thing. It didn't have electronic locks on it, so an EMP fucking from a nuclear device detonating would not trigger that thing to open. So there's another,
But again, zombies, I shrug my shoulders. There's a lot of shit that happens in this movie that doesn't make a lot of sense. It does a lot of silly B movie, like it just happened and deal with it.
Would you say it was, entertaining?
No.
I'll tell you what was entertaining. I'm gonna speak positively about this movie because I feel like we've been shitting on it for about fucking 20 minutes now. The visual effects in this movie are fucking stellar. Sure, zombie animals don't make a lot of sense when it comes to George Romero, but with Zack Snyder, sure. And a zombie tiger looks awesome.
Yeah,
it just looks fucking cool.
The zombie horse looked cool too. I will give him that. He does visual effects very well.
And do you know there were 4 puppeteers in this movie as well?
Really?
So yeah, I'm not really sure, but there were 4 puppeteers listed in the credits for this movie.
Interesting, because I know that I've seen, because there's a small 4-episode thing of behind the scenes on Netflix of this movie. And I watched a 2-minute thing on Twitter that was like the tiger was just a dude in a green suit.
Yeah, I don't know, but they have puppeteers.
That's interesting. I'd like to know where the puppeteers come from. The other thing I want to say is the not what I made. Sorry, where the puppeteers were at in the film, like what they did.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say, Maya, but
because I didn't really figure it out myself. I knew this. I looked into the cast about 20 minutes in, and I was like, okay, puppeteers. And I looked and I really couldn't find it. So maybe they did a damn good job.
The other thing I really, really, really loved about this movie, like I want to give it 100% kudos on, is its gore. Its fucking visual gore was really well done. A lot of close-up shots of just disgusting, like when the tiger bites that dude's face off. God, I was like, yes, zoom in on it, yeah. I was so into that, because to me, one of my favorite moments from a zombie movie is, and I'm just gonna quote it and see if either of you know where the fuck I'm talking about. But choke on it, choke on it. Either of you know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Have either of you? I bet you have to have watched it. But have Day of the Dead?
Oh yeah, it's
The
been
scene-
a minute.
The scene towards the end where the dude who's an asshole, he's kind of a douchebag through the movie, is being torn apart by zombies, and he's screaming choke on it. And the way that they filmed it was basically they used actual like pig intestine covered in fake blood. And so when he's being ripped apart with gore, he's just screaming choke on it. And love that fucking scene. So when there's shots in this movie that I'm like, oh, that's really fucking cool gore, I'm into it. Like when the alpha zombie twists that girl's head around and you see like part of her, I don't know if it was spine, but part of her bone pops out. I was like, oh yeah, oh that's beautiful. So 100% kudos to that. Like that the gore in this movie definitely upped the score that I'm going to give it later, or the grade I'm going to give it. And to Dave Bautista's credit, he acted very well in this movie. I'd say the acting was really well done in this movie.
And I think they did a great casting for his daughter too, because they have very similar noses. She had like the female version of his nose.
I didn't even notice that, but
I'm an artist. I know these things. I was very impressed with the casting. I loved it.
I will say, Dave Bautista is a very good actor. You know, people. Yeah. He's certainly a far better actor than The Rock. The Rock.
This is why you don't.
The Rock is charismatic. The Rock is very charismatic, and he brings charm to roles. Bautista brings believability to roles.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are actors. There are actors in this world that I fucking love, that we all love, that play themselves really, really well, and that's it. That's their range, and that's fine. Keanu Reeves, Bruce Willis, The Rock. They play themselves really well. Outside of that, garbage. And
Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, I haven't seen much with her in it to give that judgment, but I'm gonna.
I've seen a lot. She has her face does not convey emotion well when she's acting.
I still haven't even seen Twilight, so
I have not either, and I'm okay with that.
You know what movie I remember her the most in? Isn't even a movie that's that popular, and that's it was the space version of Jumanji. No, space version of Jumanji.
Zathra.
Okay, that's what I was going to say, but I was like, I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Well, she was playing a teenager, so that would totally work for her.
I always pronounced it Zathura.
That's what I pronounced it as too, but whatever. It doesn't. It's what movie I'm talking about. I said the Zathrusta is what I always said, so whatever. But yeah, so like, I don't know. I think that the casting in this is really well done. I think actually Tig Notaro handled this role better than I think Chris D'Elia would. Personally.
Oh, I love Tig, and to see her in this, I was so excited. So
yeah,
I should have gone with her in the first place.
And I actually really like the idea that nobody in this movie survived. Well, not nobody, obviously, but
I don't know if I like the idea, but I can respect it.
One of my favorite things to come out in the past decade was Rogue One. And I love that none of the heroes in Rogue One survived.
Yeah, Rogue One was great. This is no Rogue One.
No. But I like the idea of all the protagonists dying.
Oh, absolutely.
But the thing about this movie that I think really I think is funny to me is that Zack Snyder is clearly setting up something bigger. And Netflix is going to give it to him 100%.
Bastards.
There was an interview with him post the filming of this, and he said the aliens that you see in the beginning of the film that take off the bright lights, those are aliens. The fact that there are what looks like kind of clones of them that are dead near the vault is something to pay attention to. What looks like robot zombies, pay attention to that. Like, he's straight up saying, like, those are things I wanted people to notice, and I'm glad y'all did, because those will matter down the line. And I don't
Well,
know that
I'm
I care
hooked.
enough.
I'm gonna watch it.
I get that. I get that people are going to really. I mean, people fucking love this movie. I've seen a lot of reviews on it, and it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it blew up this weekend.
yeah, it did. Well, why don't we go ahead and give our final thoughts and a grade to this movie, and we'll move on to Zack Snyder's body of work, because that'll be a fun conversation. Maya, why don't you go ahead and go first?
D minus.
Jesus.
The only reason it's not an F is because it's visually impressive. The effects and the cinematography does look good. Everything, Batista does a good job in the main role. He's a good actor. Nothing against the casting or the other actors themselves. They all did a fine job, but the plot was nonsensical. It was dumb. And Zack Snyder is, all flash and no substance. And I just, yeah, fuck it. I didn't like it. I was not entertained. I didn't crack a smile. I didn't laugh at any of the dumb jokes. It was highly predictable. And yeah, that's all I got.
Well, I'm gonna go next, Betty, just because I feel like you're gonna give it a higher score than me. This to me is a C+. Because I think that there's a lot to enjoy about this film. I do agree with Maya that the plot is the absolute worst part of this movie. It's 100% the worst part of this movie. But it's not so bad that I feel like it's unwatchable. I think that the reason that it's bad is because the idea of a zombie heist is excellent. And if it was just that, if it literally was just fucking Ocean's 12 or Ocean's 11, I think it's originally Ocean's 11, whatever. If it was that, but zombies were there, it would have been a better movie. But the whole alpha zombie and smart zombie thing is just it ruins it for me. It really does. And I hate that it does, because there's so much about this movie that there is to enjoy. But once you get to the I don't even say second half, you get to the second third, and then the third of this movie. There is one joke. There's one joke that actually made me laugh really hard. And it was a solid dig at Trump. A solid dig at Trump. And that was when the TV reporter was talking about how they moved the time up of the nuke because it's the 4th of July and it would look really cool. That the president said that was hilarious to me. That was really fucking funny. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't hate the movie, but I definitely was like, I'm never gonna watch it again, and I'm not excited for a sequel. So there's that. But, yeah, C+. All right, Betty.
Well, I give it a B+. I liked the cast, and I had to say, going into this, I did not have any real expectations. I thought it was just going to be your typical zombie movie. But the thing is, I like the twist. I like the intelligent zombies. If it does have something to do with Area 51, it could be because of that. That's why they're not like the zombies we see in other, zombie-related media. The ending shocked me because, again, about 40 minutes towards the end, I realized nobody's getting out of this shit alive. And I was like, damn. But it was good. And, I found it interesting, and I definitely watched the whole thing through. And, I would love to see a sequel. So I think that it would explain a lot more about, this little snippet of a bigger story. So I give it a B+.
Alrighty. Yeah, I mean, if I honestly feel like if you're into zombies, it's like really into zombies, it's worth your time. But I don't know, it's interesting. Like I said, I was more fascinated in it as a film than the film itself. If that makes sense. But I had a really strong feeling that Like after watching it, I was like, Maya's gonna fucking hate this, and Betty's gonna really like it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like I was like, Greg, you need to watch this at least, because I was pretty sure Maya wasn't going to enjoy it as much. But I'm
Yeah,
proud of you for watching, girlfriend.
I was gonna watch it anyway, but
Well, when you messaged yesterday and it's like, hey, is there any way we can record on Thursday? It's like, yes, Thursday's good because I hadn't watched it yet at that time. And then Greg's like, no, I can't Thursday morning. We're going to have to record tomorrow. I was like, damn it, no, I've got to watch this thing tonight. So I had to watch it last night.
I like the idea that you kept putting it off, and I ruined that.
I put it off till the absolute last minute. I was like, I really don't want to watch this right now. I really don't want to watch this right now. You know, it's not that I knew I was going to dislike it. I knew there was a strong chance that I would dislike it. Just because Zack Snyder films just don't do anything for me.
You know, and that's perfect segue into Zack Snyder's body of work. So I'm not going to go through every little tiny thing that he's made, because there's a lot of like independent films and stuff he's made in the past. But his, big break was Dawn of the Dead in 2004. That was his big high budget fucking AAA movie. I really enjoyed that movie. I really, really like Dawn of the Dead. I don't think it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, personally.
I agree.
I've never seen it. I'm not a super huge fan of zombie stuff.
Zombies.
I went and saw the Diary of the Dead that we were talking about, the last Romero theatrical release. I went and saw that because a friend of mine is a huge Romero fan. He wanted to go to the movies. I was like, let's go. Why not? And it was all right. I didn't love it, but it was okay. But
I actually still haven't seen Diary of the Dead. But
I don't go out of my way to watch zombie stuff. The whole reason I was into The Walking Dead is because I thought it was a great look at how people would survive in that, and not so much because, there's zombies, ass, blood, and guts when they get busted open. I don't care about that. I think they're dumb and they're overdone.
And so I got to ask you, how'd you feel about Lori from The Walking Dead?
Hated her. I was glad that she got eaten.
Greg?
I hated that
Lori?
they made her into a character that was despised.
I thought she was a good character. I empathized with her a lot.
I loved her character in the comic. I thought she was one of my favorites, and I was really hoping that they would do her justice in the show. But then they made her. Here's my whole explanation. So they tried to make her a more compelling character for the show. She became a much hated character by the fans. So then they rewrote certain things for the show to kill her off because the fans hated her. This is why I don't like The Walking Dead, because they constantly did that kind of shit.
Andrea was a great character in the book. She was a horrible character in the show.
She was. I did not.
Is that
like
who I'm
Andrea.
thinking of, and not Lori?
Lori was the one that got pregnant, and Carl had to cut the baby out of her
Lori's
womb.
Rick's wife. My bad.
Yeah.
God damn it. My bad. Okay. Sorry. Andrea was one of the reasons I hated Walking Dead. Sorry.
Yeah, Andrea was that cool. I did not like her. She lost her schnitzels after her daughter died, or her sister died.
But the thing, it wasn't that they made Andrea a hated character for the show that pissed me off. It was that they started doing a thing where it was like, one of my favorite things about the comic was that Robert Kirkman didn't care whether you liked a character or not. If he thought they needed to die, they needed to die. And for the sake of the show, it was like, the fans hate this character, might as well kill him off. And that really pissed me off. Occasionally they do a well-loved character just to kind of get that shock value. But to me, I liked a story that just flowed regardless of fans' thoughts. And the comic always did a better job of that. And it just upset me so much. And I was just like, it wasn't because it was, and again, it wasn't that it was Andrea was the reason it upset me. It was the fact that they just kept feeding what the audience wanted. And just so, anyway, so back to Zack Snyder, because Jesus Christ, we got off track there. Dawn of the Dead, 2004. I personally love that movie. I think it's great. I think he did a great job. It's very much like he worked side by side with Romero to make it, according to what I've read. So it's very much a Romero style film, but made now. His next film that blew up, 300. I actually really like 300. Sure, it's
I have never
silly and not
watched it.
historically accurate.
I
Never
like
watched it.
300, but he did like he did with Watchmen, a literal panel for panel, adaptation of the source material.
But I think it works for 300 where it doesn't work for Watchmen.
No, I agree.
Because I've read Frank Miller's 300, and there's not a lot of nuance.
No, and that's something that fucking Zack Snyder doesn't understand. Is nuance.
I agree with you. I think that's why I think 300 works. I really do. I think that there's not a lot of nuance. There's not like a shit ton of character development. I think the biggest complaint that I've heard about the movie is that it's not historically accurate. Like, it wasn't just 300 Spartans. There was like 50,000 fucking other troops from neighboring lands.
Well, the Spartans were a nation unto themselves. Other lands were also fighting as well, but for the Spartans, yeah, it was them and them alone. They're the only ones that stood out as the particular fighters that they were. Even other Greeks thought they were a bit harsh.
Oh, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I think because there was a lot of as soon as the movie came out, there was a lot of shows on History Channel that talked about the actual history of that fight. And something that the movie and the comic do that's historically inaccurate is that it was just those 300 Spartans by themselves. It wasn't. That's the whole point I'm making. But
so what are some of the other ones he's done?
He did Watchmen next. And I remember at the time really liking Watchmen the movie because I was like, oh, it's panel for panel. It's like he used the comic as a storyboard. But as I got older and I was like, and I love the comic and reread the comic, and like I was like, oh, all that nuance that's in the comic is gone. And he almost makes Rorschach a good guy, which is wrong.
And then, going back and watching the wonderful Watchmen series on HBO, it completely changed the way I looked at the comic. And I went back and reread the comic afterwards, and I was like, oh. I think it just put a new lens on it, and that just made me dislike the theatrical movie.
I think when I watched it for the first time, Maya, I saw it as a really faithful adaptation of the comic. And I already had in my mind who these characters were, and I knew the subtlety of them, and I knew that like Rorschach was not to be an idolized character, and technically none of them are to be idolized, and they all have their flaws, and I was like, great, cool, that's fantastic. But I never picked up that subtlety that was from the comic didn't exist in the movie. Never picked that up. So, like when the Watchmen show came out on HBO, and you and I are like, why are people fucking like pissed off that Rorschach was accurately portrayed as a racist? Like, why are people mad about that? That's a real thing. So, but this movie is why. Zack Snyder's Watchmen is why. And Zack has said publicly in interviews that he to him thinks of Rorschach as the hero of the story.
Interesting.
Which is real bad.
Yeah. Which brings me to another character that we'll get to. Yeah, that he completely doesn't understand, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. That's a whole 2 movies away. So the next movie he did was called Legend of the Guardians: The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
I know that one.
This is not a bad kids movie. Like it's solid, but it's not in depth. It's a kids movie. Like it's.
But it wasn't a bad one.
No, it's not. It's not bad. It's just.
But if you told me Zack Snyder directed that, 5 years ago, I would have laughed in your face and said no.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, because it doesn't feel like a Zack Snyder film.
No,
at all. But the next one is hotly debated. I have had many conversations about this one. Sucker Punch.
I've not seen it. I know Misty has watched it, and she said that she thinks I would enjoy it, but I've never seen it.
I don't think I've seen it either.
Here's how you have to view that movie. And this is, to me, this is the best way to handle it. Ignore all the stuff that has to do with the insane asylum. If it has to do with that aspect of the movie, ignore it. This movie has, to me, I've argued that it is basically Zack Snyder wanting to do his version of heavy metal. And the small like 10-minute vignettes throughout the film that feel like they'd be a part of an anthology type situation are fantastic. And that's it. That's genuinely about this movie where it falls apart. The stuff inside the insane asylum is that the reason that you keep seeing these vignettes is because the women that exist inside the insane asylum are creating fantasies to escape the hell, that the torment that they're experiencing inside the insane asylum. However, the issue at hand is that Zack doesn't understand women at all. So that's where the problem lies.
That is a common issue with, I'm sorry. I think women have a harder time writing male sex, and the male sex has a harder time writing female sex, because I've actually watched a couple of YouTube videos discussing this kind of shit. Guys tend to focus on certain aspects like sex and boobs and vaginas and weird shit, and they don't know women at all. They're looking at women from a men's perspective. It takes a very strong man who is secure in his own masculinity to be able to write a woman effectively. That's just my opinion.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's like, if you look at all of Zack Snyder's movies, he has this problem. He genuinely has this problem. And it takes an outside source like a co-writer or another actor to kind of set it straight a little bit. There's a scene that exists in the Zack Snyder Watchmen that doesn't exist in the same way in the comic book. And that's the scene between the sex scene between Silk Spectre and Night Owl. It didn't need to be as fucking ridiculously long, and it was not inherently initiated by Silk Spectre. It was like they just kind of locked lips because of the trauma that they were both going through. At least that's how it was portrayed in the comic. In the movie, he's like, "Oh, the girl's horny." It's like, "Oh, Jesus, okay." So it's just, there's a lot of problems with it. Like it's not an uncommon thing with Zack. But if you haven't seen Sucker Punch, I do recommend it, only for the sake of the experience. Because again, if he just made a series of short vignettes that were basically part of this movie with the same actresses, I think it would have been 1,000 times better. But again, unfortunately, you have to deal with that other shit. You have to deal with the quote unquote plot of the movie. And again, I strong quote unquote plot. So, if there was a way to watch this movie without that part, I'd recommend that, but you can't. So, you just have to deal with the other shit with it. So, anyway, moving on. This is the movie that Maya was referencing with
absolutely
not understanding characters. Man of Steel.
Zack Snyder does not understand Superman, and I think he low-key hates Superman.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Wouldn't doubt it for a second. Have you seen Man of Steel, Betty?
Nope.
It's very divisive. Some fans really enjoy it. Some fans really hate it. It's not. I'm in the category of I'm not a fan of the movie. Just I own the movie, and I'll watch it every now and then. And the more I watch it, the more I'm like, nope, he still doesn't get it. You know, he's never going to get Superman.
I think for me, it's a decent Superman story. One of the things that I think is really obviously bad about this movie is his strange depiction of, like, because towards the end of the film, Superman kills the bad guy. Just spoiler alert. And
what? That's crazy.
I actually like that. I'll explain why. I don't think Superman has ever had the rule of not killing. I think that I think that rule was implemented by the Christopher Reeves movies, so people have that concept, and also through Batman. But Superman has never really instituted a no kill policy, as far as I know. He just avoids it as much as he can. But the thing about this movie that is so anti-Superman is arguably the fact that they're fighting in Metropolis. Yeah, they're fighting in Metropolis. They almost level Metropolis. The stuff that I always made fun of about this movie was like, hey, so there's like literal human ash and ash from the, destruction around us. Let's make sure we kiss while there's ash falling around us. Lois, let's kiss. Shit like that's really fucking stupid.
The fact that, the way Kevin Costner's portrayal as Jonathan Kent, his adoptive father on Earth, I didn't care for too much, like he's like, you can never let people know what you are, and basically told him, no, you can't save me, let me die from something that he absolutely could have saved him from and nobody would have seen it because he's fast enough, was dumb. Superman would not have let his father die if he could have done something to prevent it. He just wouldn't, because he cares about all life that much. Especially if it's going to be his father. That was dumb.
Not only that, but Superman does not need, in any way, shape, or form, Clark is the type of character who does not need a family death to justify his superheroism, like Batman does.
No. Exactly.
Like, he does it because he was raised right out of the kindness of his heart. And that's what makes Superman a great character. And to completely deny Superman of that because you wanted to have some emotional attachment to a father figure is, and a ham-fisted one at that, was really bad. Really fucking bad. So, like I said, there are things about this movie that I enjoy. There are things about it, like, fucking the portrayal of Zod is fucking perfect in my mind.
And the fact that they got a comedian to play Zod. I mean, Michael Shannon's a comedian, man. He's more of a comedic actor than a serious actor.
I don't agree with that. I mean, I've seen him in more serious roles than I have comedic roles, personally.
I've seen him in some pretty funny things, so I guess that's where I'm getting you.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I have too. Like, I'm with you on that. Like, he does a lot of comedic movies, but he's been in a lot of serious roles, as far as I know. But yeah, I don't know. He did an excellent job as Zod, personally. That's all I'm getting at. Michael Shannon played Zod really well. But yeah, so this leads us to the next movie that also shows that Zack doesn't understand Superman, and that would be Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Doesn't understand Batman very well either.
Fair, but like, I go back to this thing about Batman in wow, why am I drawing a blank on his name? The trilogy, the Chris Nolan. Jesus.
The Christopher Nolan trilogy? Okay.
I would argue the same thing for Christopher Nolan's trilogy, because the Batman in those movies is different from the Batman that I've ever experienced before. This is why I argue that, like, the silly shit that exists in
Batman versus Superman?
No, the third movie.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises, thank you. The silly shit that happens in that movie that makes that movie bad is only bad because the first two films that were set up, this shit doesn't make sense in relation to those two films.
Yeah.
So in that vein, the world that Christopher Nolan's Batman is a drastically different Batman than what I know.
I agree.
But one thing that Chris Nolan gets about Batman is that Batman's entire justification for what he does is because of his parents' death. Zack Snyder doesn't get that at all.
No. His motivation seemed to be more like, oh, let's eradicate, all things that are bad. The way he treated criminals and everything, I didn't have a problem with so much. But what I did have a problem with is his motivations for his hatred of Superman. In comics, Batman would be like, you can be dangerous. You could be dangerous to humanity. There needs to be a way to bring you down in case you ever stop being the Boy Scout.
Yeah.
And he has contingency plans. This, he's just like, he's horrible. He's dangerous. He needs to die. I need to kill him. That was dumb.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I mean, there's earlier shots in this film of when like Batman's taking out like a line of cars or some shit for I don't remember what it was. It was early on in the film, but he uses that wire to flip a bunch of cars, and like I remember watching the scene going, those people are dead. They are dead. Because one of the things about Batman that you have to keep in mind is that every version of Batman has had the same motif. The second that I start killing, I become no better than the guy who killed my parents.
For the most part, I mean, there's been a few times where he's killed or been, apathetic towards the survival of whoever he was facing. But it's very, very rare.
Very rare. So seeing that in this movie and having because it was very clear that the Batman we were seeing was an attempt at the Batman that we've always known. Like, I know that the inspiration came from that one story that Frank Miller wrote, where Batman's like old and he gets the Robin is that girl.
The Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns. I know that's the inspiration for this Batman, but even that Batman wouldn't kill. So I'm like, what is happening here? It just nothing fits right. And then people have always argued with me about the big thing in this movie that really pisses people off, and that's his freak out over Martha.
Why'd you say that name?
There's a reason that doesn't make sense. Ben Affleck has portrayed this character this entire film as a calm, collected person who is experiencing some trauma. He is in the middle of that fight. If he just pulled the fucking staff back and just kind of walked away and then said, like, where did you hear that name? It would have been different. It'd have been way fucking different. It would have been nicer. But the fact that he has this like absolute fucking meltdown, it was comedic. It was comedic because it was so out of character.
Yeah. Well, that's, again, Zack Snyder doesn't understand nuance. He just doesn't. It's bang, bang in your face.
Oh, can we talk about how bad fucking Jesse Eisenberg is as Lex Luthor? I hated that.
Yeah, he's too over the top, and I think they tried to make him mentally unstable, more akin to a Joker type character.
Yeah, 100%. Well, his next movie is Justice League, which I know we've talked about on the podcast before. I haven't seen the Snyder cut, but Justice League I thought it was an okay movie. When I saw it in the theater, I was like, that's fine.
Justice League that we saw in the theater was a very different movie than the Snyder cut that we got on HBO Max earlier this year. And, Zack Snyder's went through a personal tragedy with...
Yes, he did.
And, I understand why he left the project. But I don't think it was a mutual thing. He wanted to step back and be with his family after they lost their was it his daughter?
His mom.
No, it was his daughter. It was his kid.
I thought I read it was his mom, but I mean, if it's his daughter, it's... Hold on. I gotta look this up now.
Yeah, she killed herself. That's why he left. She died by suicide, and she was only 20 years old. It's a horrible tragedy that he went through. And, I understand that him leaving the project, he stepped down. But That's when Warner Brothers brought on Joss Whedon because he had come off of the success of the first Avengers movie. And they're like,
And
we'll get
technically
Joss
Age of Ultron.
and Age of Ultron, yes. And they're like, we'll get Joss Whedon to finish it up. And the movies, the tones are very different. You know, Snyder, his version, it's a lot darker, more sepia toned movie. All the colors are muted. You know, Whedon brightened the colors up. There were a lot of, he reshot a lot of the movie and he put in things to make it more Marvel-esque in a way. Like if you look at the way Zack Snyder views superheroes, he reveres them as gods. And
Which is actually okay for DC. Like,
it's yeah, but it's like real people are an afterthought.
right.
Joss Whedon, what he did is when the Justice League's facing Steppenwolf in the final showdown, he puts families in danger, and you see the Flash and other members. They're like, okay, we've got to save these innocent people so they're not, destroyed, killed in our showdown, to try to give them some heroic elements instead of just godlike characteristics. Make them be heroes more than be super. Whereas Zack Snyder just wants to make them be super instead of being heroes.
Mm-hmm.
He's all style, no substance, as I've said.
I think my biggest issue with Zack as a whole is that his fans are diehard.
Mm-hmm.
They will never bend. They will never sit there and say, "Oh, this was not a good thing in his movies." They can't critique them properly. I think just about every single Zack Snyder film is okay. The two that I really enjoy, that I'd go back and watch again any day, is his two first movies, Dawn of the Dead and fucking 300. I think those are fun movies to watch.
Yeah.
Everything after that is just, it's like, I watched it, I don't care to watch it again, and I move on with my life.
Yeah. I mean, I've not seen Dawn of the Dead. I can't speak to that, but I did enjoy 300. And again, it's because it was very similar to the source material. It was a very faithful adaptation to the source material. But that source material in itself didn't have a lot of nuance to it.
The difference, I think, also between Zack Snyder and other directors is that he tries to go outside of his wheelhouse. It's like you said, Maya, that he doesn't exude an understanding of subtlety or nuance, but he loves flashy films. He loves to make flashy films.
He's the Michael Bay of comic book properties.
But if he just made his movies like Michael Bay does, and understood where he can make movies well, he'd make better movies. But the fact that he tries to go outside of that is what makes these movies just okay. So, I don't know. I think that Zack is a talented person. I really do. I think he's a very talented filmmaker. But he's a talented filmmaker, and that's it. He is not a very good story writer. And when he makes adaptations, he needs to back up and let somebody else write the adaptation, not himself.
I think, I think, I'm not going to deny that he does have a wonderful visual eye, directing style. It's there. It is absolutely there. It's just when he's writing the story, I think the story suffers because of he doesn't have the understanding. And again, it's just, I don't know. I don't, I don't hate everything he does. I just, if he's written it and directed it, there's a good chance I'm not going to enjoy it. If he's just directed it and didn't write it, I'll happily check it out.
See, I'm always going to see a Zack Snyder film because he's never made something that I've hated. I think that's the important distinction there. I've never seen a film of his that I went, fuck this goddamn movie. I've never done that. Not once in his entire career. So I want him to keep making movies because I want to see something that I'm going to love from him. And I know it's going to happen eventually.
I want the same thing. I want to see him do something that I really enjoy, like I enjoyed 300 again.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But all right, well, we should close out the podcast because I haven't eaten today and I'm hungry and I want to go eat. So,
well, Betty, do you have any final thoughts before we go?
No, not really. I probably will try to do like Greg's been doing. I'd like to do a review of The Nevers. I think that it was a really good show and it deserves some mentioning. So we'll talk about that later. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. We don't really have anything scheduled for next week. Might we just do an Inhibited? I don't know. Might have, a movie pop up out of nowhere that we want to watch, but who knows? We'll see. If that's the case, keep an eye on our socials, which you can find the links to all of them down below. Also, if you're trying to get like a new shirt for the summer, you can get one on our Teespring store, which has our cartoon faces or just the logo. I know that spring is ending here soon and summer's around the corner, so we do have a lot of product for that summertime. So go check out our store. Go buy something. You deserve it. Go buy something for your own back.
And all proceeds go into maintaining the upkeep of the show.
Absolutely. Also, hit up our YouTube channel. I've been posting some reviews. I actually filmed 3 earlier this week, which will go up soon. And there's already 2 on there. I'm also going to record 2 later on today. Of
those 3, those 3 will be up later. They'll already be up as the time of this is published. So,
oh, there you go. Okay, perfect. I don't remember what those 3 were. Drawing a complete blank.
The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yes.
I don't remember the other 2 off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm trying to go to my page to see about what I have on there. Let's see your videos. So it was
Mortal Kombat,
Bad Trip, and Mitchells versus the Machines, which are all 3 films, different networks. No, Bad Trip and Mitchells versus the Machines both are on Netflix. So, but yeah, and then I'm gonna do a review today of MODOK, which you can find on Hulu, and the supplement Borat 2 stuff, which will probably be a little bit longer of a video just because it needs to be. Since there's 3 things to it. But yeah, go check that out. And like Betty said, she's very likely going to do this in the future as well for the shows that she watches, because that's the biggest issue that we're finding with this is that I'm having less and less time to watch things in their entirety. Plus I have other, things I'm doing as well, like games and whatnot, while, Maya is also busy with certain things, and we just don't have the time to watch as many shows as we used to. So when we do have time, or there's shows that we want to watch that maybe the rest of us don't, that's where you're going to be able to find those individual reviews, is on our YouTube channel. Plus, you can find the full podcast in its entirety, in its video form, also on the YouTube channel, which, to help out the algorithm, if you could head over there, give this video a like, subscribe to it, leave a comment, helps us out big time. Other people can then, see the, if they search for a podcast or they write in the word queued, it might pop up. So that's how it helps us. But yeah, other than that, Maya, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Maya Dawn Fisher. It's a public page, so if you want to follow me publicly, see the nonsense that I post, you're more than welcome to. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram through that page. The links are there. And if you want to catch me on other shows that I do, I'm a part of 2 other podcasts, and they're both on the Realm of Collectors YouTube channel. One is called Figure Bangin'. It's a live action figure review show every other Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then every Friday night live at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Realm of Collectors YouTube channel on a show called Nerd Life Syndicate, which Greg was happily filling in a part of the show with us again last week.
Yeah, it's a good time.
We had a good time. Conversation went a little bit deeper than normal for the
fault.
first half of the show, but it was a good time. It was a good time regardless. We had fun. But yeah, check those out. Realm of Collectors YouTube channel. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell to it too if those are things that you're interested in. But yeah, that's everywhere you can find me. What about you, Betty?
I'm on Facebook, Betty Badger Ogletree, and I'm on Twitter at Bright Betty, and that's where you can find me. Greg?
You can find me at Chubrock Geek on all socials. Mostly active on Twitter, so I don't know. I haven't been really that active, but you can follow me on all those if you want. Also, Anthony and I are going to be planning a series of episodes that we're going to record and upload as soon as possible. I hope he's a little bit quicker with it because Jesus Christ. But what we want to do is the upcoming few weeks, there's going to be a lot of video game announcements, a lot of news and regarding video games leading up to E3 and just all sorts of stuff like that. And usually late May into June into July is when every game company is going like, hey, we've got coming at the end of the year and we've got coming out next year. So we love talking about that. We love having long discussions about what we want to see and don't want to see and yada yada. And so if that sounds like something that's up your alley, it's all video game related. We don't talk about any shows. Go check out Mission Start Podcast or Mission Start Tubes on YouTube. You can also find reviews that I've recorded and he edits and uploads. But yeah, if that's something you're into, go check that out. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We really, really appreciate it. We love doing this. I know that this is, more of a hobby for us than it is a job. But the fact that we have anybody listening to us is always astounds me. So we really, really appreciate it. Yeah, and in case you guys forgot, as I have written here, a list of things I keep having to add to. Let me actually add one to it real quick. Hold on, stop. Okay, so in case you forgot, God, I'm trying to write and talk at the same time. In case you forgot, Black Lives Matter, stop Asian hate, protect trans youth, free Palestine, and stop Jewish violence. We'll see you next week.
Peace, love, and polypops, everybody.
Take care, everybody.